May, what's happening?
I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah?
I feel so official.
Yeah. Just getting settled in here. Um yeah, I feel like this week has been, you said you were trying to focus on consistency with sleep, and for me it's been all over the place. Yeah, I've been trying to sleep in just to like feel out my body and make sure that even though I want to wake up at 5:45 every single day,
Ooh.
I slept until like 8 a.m. instead, like 2 days out of this week.
Delicious.
And you ever like wake up and your body is just like, it feels like it's regenerating, like it's not like weak, but like your body just needs to get enough sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I hold strong to the belief and or knowing that when we sleep, we heal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just felt like I needed to sleep after the Do Hard Things conference. But happy you were able to jump on and get to know you better. We met through Hutch introducing me to you on our birthday. We have the same birthday.
Yeah.
April 22nd.
What's up?
Let's go.
Birthday.
Taurus. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then also, were you born? I know I've asked you a couple of times. Were you born in Massachusetts? Okay.
Born and raised.
So we're both from Massachusetts, and we have the same birthday.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like, are we the same person?
Are we twins?
Are we twins? Oh my God, my long lost twin, finally.
But I've been thinking about you over the course of me just, the way that I pick people to come on, it's very intuitive. It's very just like, there's no structure really. Like if I feel that like this person is a good fit for the podcast, whenever, kind of like in whatever stage of life I'm in, I think that that's just kind of how I choose people right now. But yeah, I would love to get to know you better. And I guess before we jump into your journey in Austin, Texas, and with hypnosis, just maybe just to understand like how you were led to Austin and like how you started this. Cause I think I saw you became a yoga instructor like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even maybe even like 7 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
That was like the beginning of the awakening process.
Okay. Yeah. Let's, if you want to jump into that, I would love to hear more about the awakening process. Cause yeah, for me, it started so I'm 30 now, and it started when I was like 24. And it started off with like listening to a podcast with Tim Ferriss.
Okay.
And he had a book that I purchased after listening to a few episodes, because I was just like, wow, this guy is just dropping some knowledge bombs that's like really helping me. And yeah, just for me, the awakening process or self-improvement, whatever you want to call it, that stage of my life started through just unprocessed pain, just like just kind of continuously living a life that wasn't really reflecting on how can I create balance and just like my own higher self. So yeah, wherever you want to begin talking about your journey, love to hear about it.
Gosh, well, we've lived a lot of life.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to live. But, to start at the pin of the yoga teacher training that I did, I was working in corporate America as a change management consultant. I was on an airplane every Monday, flying to client sites, and then back home on Thursday nights. And I did that every week for 48 weeks a year.
Holy shit.
For 5 years.
Wow.
And at first it was really exciting. I'm like, oh my God, someone's going to buy my plane ticket for me. Granted, I'm going to like Columbus, Ohio, but
from Mass.
I was in New York City at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. But the lifestyle started to really have a negative impact. It was very, very stressful. It was that like all of my time was owned by my job because they purposefully take you out of your environment. So it's not like, oh, hey, I can't work late today. I have little Billy's softball club, or like, I can't work late today. I've got ballet or whatever it is that you do. Like you're removed from your life completely. So your time is owned Monday through Thursday, period. So, you know, you're like working 8 to 6 on the client site, but then you all have dinner together because what do you do? And maybe you're entertaining clients or whatever. But also there's deadlines and you have to have that PowerPoint deck ready for 7:30 in the morning the next day. But also you worked the whole time and then you had to entertain the client. And so when is that going to happen? Well, you're not going to sleep. So this lifestyle really started to take a toll on me. And I found myself really unhappy, but also like not fully knowing that I was unhappy because that was just the version of normal that I was aware of. Because this was really my first job after grad school. So I was just like, this is what it is to work. Like this is working.
And it looks probably good on paper compared to just like society's ideal
100%
scenario.
Yeah.
So.
My parents were like super proud of me having this job and I'm like able to buy everything that I need for myself and take care of myself without asking for any support or help. So, you know, you're right. On paper, it all looks good. But anyways, long story short, I found myself that whenever I would go to yoga, I would show up nicer at work the next day. I was like, it's easier for me to be nice. So I'm like, there's got to be something here. And I thought to myself, let me try a yoga teacher training. But also that was kind of scary. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit embarrassed. I felt a little bit of shame about it. And I didn't tell anyone at work because I didn't know how to be both the woman who does yoga and the woman who like does PowerPoints and works in a corporate space. Like I thought they had to be separate. And so I kept them separate.
Okay.
But this yoga teacher training program that I did was based in the chakra system. So it was based in the energy system of the body. So it was all about bringing balance to body, mind, and spirit. So yes, it was a physical somatic practice, which also was probably more movement and more invitation to feel my feelings than I ever had in my life. And also it brought so much awareness into my mind, into my field, that we are energetic bodies, that we are so much more than physical bodies. So basically like totally blew my mind. And that then opened me up to the world of Reiki. I already was using essential oils, and then it encouraged me to become a certified aromatherapist. And all of this then brought me into the world of hypnosis. And that happened because at the end of a yoga teacher training, you have a final, like any type of program. And that's how you get your certification, is that you pass the final. And so I had to lead a 90-minute class that began and ended with a meditation. I did not meditate. I did not have a meditation practice. And so I really felt like, how can I lead people through a practice that is not something that I practice? It feels inauthentic. I'm not very good at lying. I'm not a good faker. Like, what am I going to do?
I hope you're not good at lying.
No, I'm really, you can read my face. I'm a pretty terrible liar. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'll just start meditating. That's an easy solution. And every time I sat down to meditate, I was like, ooh, but hold on. When's the last time you deep cleaned the inside of the oven? These are legit thoughts. And I was like, I haven't done that in a while. I should probably do that first. And then I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to sit down and meditate. I'm like, okay, meditating. And I'm like, oh my God. But the exterior glass pane of those windows are disgusting. Take the windows out, turn them around, clean the outside windows of my New York City apartment. And then I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm aware enough to know that I'm self-sabotaging in a certain sense. Like I'm denying myself this opportunity to meditate. And I don't know why. And then I had this thought, I'm like, maybe meditation is a conspiracy theory. I'm like, this is bullshit. No one's meditating. Like everyone has this experience that I'm having, and that they sit down to meditate and then do something else. I'm like, so I don't think everyone else is meditating because this is hard and I don't think it's real. Or maybe it is, and the problem is me, which no one ever likes that response. So I thought to myself, well, I know someone who's in the hypnosis world. And let's just take the assumption that I am blocking myself from this activity that many, many people say that is the best thing they've ever done from themselves. So I was like, all right, I'll try hypnosis to see if I'm blocking something or whatever. Let's just give it a shot. And typically people arrive at hypnosis when they have tried all other options and they have nothing left to lose and they're kind of at a place of desperation is oftentimes it's like a last case scenario. But I do believe that that's changing. So I signed up for 3 sessions and they were virtual. They're on the phone. And at this point in time, I was working on Wall Street. My client was on Wall Street. And I was like, I'll just take my first hypnosis session from the conference room at the office on Wall Street. Because I really didn't know like what I was signing up for. And so it was like maybe a 6 o'clock appointment. So it was like after hours, technically speaking. And long story short, the session was like a process of progressively relaxing the physical body. So I'm sitting there kind of like this same environment. I'm sitting in like a conference chair and they're inviting me to like progressively relax my physical body. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then she guides me in this visualization practice to bring me to a big open field, And she's like, okay, are you there? I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Inside my mind, I'm there. And, you know, you can smell the fresh grass. You can hear the birds chirping. There's sunshine touching the skin. Like it's very real. And she's like, okay, I want you to go to the edge of this field and there's really tall grass. I want you to part the grass. I'm like, okay, go to the edge of the field and part the grass. She's like, I want you to step through the other side. And I go to step through and it's like I hit a glass pane, like, and I can't step through. And again, this is all in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And I can't step through to the other side, whatever there is beyond this grass, this plane. I can't get there. And I'm bawling. I am like having a very big emotional response to this experience.
Whoa.
Which I didn't understand. And there wasn't any desire to understand. It was just a pure release of emotions as I'm having this experience. And then more or less like that session kind of ended. And that was, you know, that was exactly what I needed to experience. And we continued to build off of that after the fact. But I left that experience, first of all, absolutely shocked to find out that nothing was wrong with me. Because I thought that I couldn't meditate. And if everyone else in the world is meditating and I, quote, can't meditate, I thought something was wrong with me. But in this experience, I relaxed into such a deep state that I had never accessed before. So that totally blew my mind. And I was like, okay, so I guess we can take it off the list that something's wrong with me, because that's not the case. And also I just accessed a depth to myself that I didn't know was possible. And so now, like, what else is possible? I don't know. And now there's like a whole new realm that's opened up. And so we continued working on this scene, this scenario. And the next time we had a session, went back to the field, went back to the grass. This time I was able to part it, step through to the other side. And there was a body of water, and go to the edge of the water, look over the edge, see a reflection. Who is the reflection? It's me as a little girl. We have a conversation and we have this like whole healing moment back and forth with me and little me. And there was just so much intense healing. And it completely blew my mind. So at that point, I was like, whoa, this is it. There is something incredibly special here. So long story short, I did pass my yoga teacher training exam.
After?
Yeah. I don't exactly remember like all of that. At least what that first session did happen beforehand. So we passed with flying colors, but I don't teach yoga anymore. But that was like that experience, that whole experience was 100% for me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. The not being able to part the grass, it reminds me of dreams of like you're running, but you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to open a door, but you can't open it. I don't know about you, but I've had those types of dreams where you're like doing something, but you can't progress to the next step. You're like, what the fuck is happening here? You know? And the fact that when you couldn't do that, you couldn't part the grass, like an energetic release of emotions. That's so wild to me how like there's various modalities. Like for me, the first time that's ever happened, I did combo and then also ayahuasca, like both spectrums of emotions. So the combo was like I cried. And then ayahuasca was like just laughed with so much joy.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah. And then I've also done somatic breath work twice. And that was, I mean, both sessions just so for all of these things, no conscious thoughts. And I am just like releasing layers, it feels like layers of emotions. And when that happened to me, for the first time, I just could, I was just, it was like magic. It felt like magic. And I don't understand. I'm trying to understand. I guess my rational brain is trying to clarify it conceptually, right? But I think it's we're always trying to do that nowadays. Is we're trying to make everything into we're thinking in words, right? And sometimes you can just not think, but just perceive and with energy, or I don't know.
Yeah. I love everything that you're saying, and I relate to it so much in some shared experiences I've had. And I was having a conversation with some women a couple weeks back about imposter syndrome. And specifically in that realm, and I think well beyond that, we as humans, we think that we can think our way out of feeling problems. But we have to feel our way out of feeling problems. And so when we have these experiences like combo, like ayahuasca, like breath work, like hypnosis, like whatever it is, even like a calm meditative moment where the conscious thoughts stop, then it's like, oh, this is what's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still, even though I've embodied that experience, I know exactly what you're saying. Because I've been doing that for so long, trying to conceptualize, rationalize, thinking my way out of what I really need to do is just heal through letting go, whether it's crying, whether it's laughing. But as a man, I just to, with no filter, it's you're a pussy if you cry.
Yeah.
I when I was a kid, it was you're a faggot, you're a homo. People, those are the words that were.
Oh, I grew up in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I know.
You know how it
that
is.
was the vocab for sure on the playgrounds.
That was the vocab. You're a pussy. You're they look at you like there is something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So what I've when I was talking, to not ramble too much, but going back to our awakening, right? And what caused me to do something about it was because I was going through so much. It was just a buildup of so many things throughout my entire life. But also I ended a relationship. I left a job. And I was looking at my father, and I don't even know if I've told him this or if he realizes it, or I don't think he perceived it or was able to read it. But I felt like I needed to say something I feel like the thoughts that have been going on are I have a psychological problem, but all it was I just haven't released any emotion. So it was I was thinking, oh, because I feel this way, there's something psychologically wrong with me because of the words we were just describing. It was you're something is wrong with you. You're a pussy if you release any sad emotions or any kind of emotions aside from being tough. Right. And so you can just I can just already say right now, that is unhealthy. That is, at least for me, it drove me to a wall of insanity. I was okay, if I don't release this in some format, I just feel, you can feel it in your body. So it's wild, and more men need to do this.
Oh gosh, yes.
And I still need to do it because I'm still to this day, as you're speaking about it, I'm still kind of falling back into rationalizing, okay, release this emotion. But it's no, you need to do other things. Just allow yourself to cry, which I still can't do. Well, I'm trying. I'm trying. But anyways, thank you for sharing that. That's, I guess one question that I have for you is what did were you able to understand like why you were able to just kind of release emotions when you weren't able to part the grass? Was it just like, yeah, I don't know.
No, I still haven't put rationality to that experience. And a part of me is like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why I was crying.
Yeah, here's me right now just trying to rationalize.
Yeah, but and it's a beautiful question because we want to understand, right? Because when we understand, then we're learning, and when we learn, then we're able to share these experiences, and we're sharing that learning. And
right.
And so that there's a beautiful intention behind that question, and also I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
That's what I needed.
Yeah.
I needed that. And I still do. I think for both of our stories, as you shared, like, isn't it interesting that our awakening was coming from the realization that there's nothing wrong with us?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to an extent, yeah.
It's
for me,
simple,
at least, yeah.
and it also, like, when that hits, you feel that so deeply, to have this like breath of relief, to be like, oh my God, I can feel my feelings. I can express myself. I can meditate. I can do that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that I think millions of people are probably going through and have been going through that. And like, even as of late, like, you think about these things that are coming up from childhood that after, taking time to try to heal this and healing it, like releasing these emotions, your ego, or at least my ego, still comes back and tries to rationalize things, and like certain things get triggered, and then your mind goes in different directions. And so it's a constant state of awareness of like, okay, do I need to rationalize this, or do I need to just try to let go through some kind of energetic release? And so, yeah, Austin is just like has a plethora of resources to help with that.
Hell yeah. Yes. I do feel exponentially so lucky to be here in Austin. And, and I feel like that's an open loop thread from our conversation earlier of like the pathway of coming to Austin, which I feel like I do want to address as well. There was another loop that I wanted to close with you, and now it's not. It's escaped my.
Well, so you were in the conference room, you did this.
Yeah.
I don't know if we closed that loop, but like, that was to progress to the yoga certification.
Yeah, that was literally just to start meditating. Like, I tried hypnosis just to start meditating, which is kind of like meta, because you're starting a mindfulness practice through sitting down to have a hypnosis session. So like, it already was because I started this hypnosis session. But yeah, basically I left that conference room.
Yeah.
Like, completely inflamed eyes. Like, I'm telling you, I went full ham in this emotional release. Like, the snots out both nostrils, like floods of tears, to the point when your eyes get like inflamed, the face is red, and like just tender hearted. And I called my sister and I was like, I don't know how to explain to you what I just experienced. And then I was like, well, I got to get on the subway and go home. So I'll call you later. Yeah. So I had to sit with that for a minute.
Yeah. And so how much longer did you stay with that corporate job?
I'm still in corporate.
I don't think so.
I still am in corporate.
Really? I thought you were full-time entrepreneurial, authentic hypnosis teacher.
I still have a position in corporate on top of my entrepreneurial endeavors.
Okay.
Which is like, I know that is a part of my journey and part of my sharing journey.
Mm-hmm.
because I still feel a sensitivity in being this spiritual creature.
Mm-hmm.
How do I fit in the corporate box?
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting experience to like live in this world of Austin where it's like, keep Austin weird. And so I'm like, okay, let me lean into that. And like experimenting with how I'm dressing and how I'm showing up and going to tantric speed dates and play parties and all of these wild experiences. And then like showing up on Monday, like being like, hey, Peter, how was your weekend? Good. How was yours? Great. Thanks. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So in this talk track of authenticity, which is so important to me, it's been a really interesting experience to feel like I can't be, I say can't in quotations, my full authentic self from 9 to 5.
Mm.
And I think that is a shared experience.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very grateful because I'm working, I guess you could call it corporate. It's a startup that has like 80, 90 employees, and
Nice.
the culture is awesome.
Oh yeah.
It's not super, I hate using the word like conscious, but I do feel like from the top down, from the CEO to the both co-founders, executive team down, it's like, just doesn't feel super corporate. If it does feel like a different vibe, it's
Sure.
tough for me to explain, but I think it's still in an early stage as well. But I also, I'm working that and doing this, and I love both right now.
Yeah, great,
so,
amazing,
which is great.
Yeah, it's a gift.
But I can totally understand that if you're working for like a super corporate job and you're doing what you're doing now, with it's probably difficult, right? Because you're trying to balance, or maybe a part of you doesn't feel as authentic when you're doing the corporate job, right? Like you're kind of forcing a part of yourself to adapt in a way that's not like fully your natural self.
For sure. It's definitely a feeling of the round peg and the square hole kind of thing.
Yeah.
That, I have these wild and beautiful experiences, and I'm facilitating classes and events and supporting people one-on-one in exiting an old place of fear and like transporting themselves into a world of possibility that they didn't know was possible. And then also like make sure to put 8 hours of vacation in Peter's schedule by end of day on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But right now, that is the duality of my experience. But I think because of that, I hold an interesting perspective and understanding. A dear friend of mine, she's like, we have, a foot in the 3D and like a foot in the 5D, and like a foot in the corporate like business owner space. Got to have your head around you. Got to have systems. You got to like have Google Sheets. You got to know how to do a VLOOKUP, and also like we pray, meditate, do breath work. And practice all these practices. So I do enjoy to be able to sit in both. And also I don't feel comfortable fully being this version of me that you see and hear on the podcast in the corporate setting. I do not feel that I would be accepted. It does not feel safe to be me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I totally resonate with when you have both steps, there is like a unique balance as well. So I mean, at one point I was saying maybe you're not. Yeah, you're a round peg going into a square slot, but to have that unique perspective, you can work with different clients and really, truthfully embody what they're going through.
Yeah,
because you're still living that corporate life, and we're at a stage in humanity, at least in America, where it's like everybody's doing this, or a good majority of people are enrolled in some type of corporate job or overly organized job, you know? And so if you're like full blast in the 5D, you know, it could, I don't know. Yeah, it's tough for me to wrap my head around it, but so I can totally understand how there's you know, it's two sides to it.
Well, you know, it is interesting because I actually, upon reflection, if I really am thinking about it now, like I wouldn't want to be 100% in the corporate space and zero woo. Yeah. And I also wouldn't want to be 100% in the woo space and zero groundedness.
Yeah.
Because I also have experienced some like very heady spiritual people who kind of are like, it's all love and light, like all that's meant to be will be, and I trust in the universe, and like I believe a lot of that too, and like I believe that to be true. And also sometimes it's like, okay, well, like it's not all light and love right now, and it's not like all good, and like we do need to have some systems. And so I appreciate I do believe there needs to be a balance for me anyways, for my experience, to not so much have your head in the clouds, also have your feet grounded. Because I've seen some very conscious and spiritual people not able to run a business because they're literally not tracking their financial situation.
They're in like $500,000 worth of debt or something. There's
a strong potential for that, yeah. So like, to your point, at the very beginning of our conversation, talking about balance, like the awakenings that we have are callings for balance, so long as we're open to receiving.
Yeah. So to continue with the yoga certification.
Yes.
And from that part of your story, did you continue to do yoga for a while, or did you just like say, wow, that first hypnosis session just blew me away. I'm gonna skip yoga. And
I taught for the summer after my yoga teacher training, and just did like free yoga in the park kind of thing.
Okay. And this was still in New York?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was when I was living in Queens, New York.
So by park, do you mean like?
Not Central Park.
Okay.
But like the local park in Astoria, Queens.
Okay.
Yeah, which was one of my favorite parks, and I really loved it.
Sweet.
I enjoyed it, and also I didn't feel super inspired by it. But it was a process to let that go. But I don't think I ever took my yoga teacher training to become a teacher. Like I just felt called, and I just wanted to deepen the practice. I just was really curious about deepening that practice. And I had done theater and done dance my whole life.
Oh, cool.
But I dropped it. And so
I can see that.
Yeah, I'm like, my whole life. But then I dropped it. And so I missed having the consistency of like, okay, you have jazz on Tuesdays and Thursdays, tap is on Monday nights, and ballet is Wednesdays, Fridays. But when I dropped all of the theater pursuit, I didn't have that like consistency, that schedule of body movement. So when I left the theater world, I was like, oh my God, I miss moving my body. And so as a non-theater person, I was like, well, I don't know, yoga seems like there's a consistent schedule. There's something there. And so that kind of filled that void for me. And also was like 100% the medicine that I needed. Because I was not feeling my feelings, and I was storing a lot of things in my body, but I did not even know that then. I can see that now.
It's wild how you can like totally be blind to it in the moment. Yeah.
Dude, there was one day in this yoga teacher training, because we're doing like a lot of yoga. So it's so much movement. And this was very like specific to move through the chakra system. So it's also like processing layers of emotions. And there was one day where I had a full-on breakdown, full-on breakdown, meltdown. We had like a break for lunch on like a full duration Saturday, and I just lost it.
This is during
my yoga teacher training.
Okay.
And I just like, I couldn't handle. I was like, if one more person gives me one more task or one more movement or one more fucking crow pose, I'm going to lose it. And I did. and I lost it.
Yeah.
And then I found it again. So I found myself again.
Yeah.
But the yoga teacher training I did fully for me. And then I started to get really into hypnosis because of this powerful experience that I had. And again, it made me curious of what else is possible that I was not aware of, since that was so profound. And I had no idea that there was any possibility behind the hypnosis practice. And so it became my tool for everything. I was like, okay, I want to go to bed at a decent hour. I'll do hypnosis on it. Okay, I want to eat more vegetables. Do hypnosis on that. Okay, I want to open myself up to a romantic partner. Do some hypnosis on that. And there was like so much creativity there. I loved the whole process. I loved, like, it felt ceremonial in a certain sense. Like there's a routine to it. There's a ritual to it. And it was just so profound. It worked every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would I do anything else? And so I still hold strong to that. Like, this is a tool that I believe is severely underrated.
Yeah.
And can truly help to shift the whole world if we are allowing or willing to allow ourselves to get past some misconceptions about hypnosis. Because it's kind of wild.
What are the most common misconceptions?
I mean, I get asked more often than not if I'm going to make someone cluck like a chicken.
I saw your one of your posts.
Yeah.
That was good.
It's a real question. And I get it. And there's a question that's underneath that question. And the question that's underneath that question is, am I going to be out of control? Is someone going to have control over my mind?
Or take like advantage of me or something.
Sure.
Like,
Which is a super vulnerable thought, right?
Yeah.
And it's wild because it's not possible.
Really?
It's not possible.
To be out of control.
It's not possible for someone else to control you.
Really?
It's not.
So, okay. Yeah, I mean, I've never really participated in hypnosis, I don't think. I did watch a few like sessions during like grade school. We had a hypnotist come and
oh wow,
like did it on stage,
like entertainment stage hypnosis.
Yeah.
Okay. That's most people's point of reference is like, our senior year in high school, a stage hypnotist came in and made the football player of school become a cucumber on stage. You're like, okay.
And so people are like, whoa, I don't want to be embarrassed or.
Totally.
So I can see where that could be a misconception or just like a fear.
Yes. But even going back to childhood in cartoons, oftentimes there is the pocket watch, and it's typically a scary, old, like disgusting looking man who has one of those like curly mustaches, and they're always, scheming, right? They're like, yes. And they take out their pocket watch and they spin it, and the other person's eyes turn into the white and black swirling things, and they're now under control of that evil person. And then that evil person does whatever they do, steals their money, I don't know, takes their car, whatever, steals from them, takes advantage, and then goes on their merry little way. And so even from childhood, we have this conditioning that hypnosis is mind control.
I just said in a podcast how like social media can be like a hypnosis machine. And I said that, and I apologize.
No, but you know what? Okay, keep going with your thought.
It's just like, it just felt, I'm much better with it now than what I used to be or how I used to be. I use it as a tool for this podcast and to be social and for information.
Yeah.
But there are moments where you're just like, I mean, Instagram has adapted to be like TikTok, and you can literally just like, just keep going, and like 30 minutes or 45 minutes can go by. And I've seen this with other people. It's like, and then a part of me, I mean, this happened last night, actually. I was feeling pretty relaxed. I had somewhat of a productive week, and I don't fall into this that often, but it did happen last night. And I, like 30 minutes went by, and I was like, was that productive? Was that something that I wanted to intentionally do? No, it wasn't. And I've said, social media, the algorithm, because it's so entertaining, so stimulating, it's like a hypnosis machine. That's what I said. But
you are forgiven.
Yeah.
But I'll share with you why.
I'm repenting my sins.
No, I'll share with you why. So there's a theory which I found to be super expansive for my brain. So there's this idea that, okay, I'm a certified hypnotherapist, I'm a certified hypnotist, and so I hypnotize someone. Cool. But there's actually a theory that when you practice hypnosis, you're actually exiting the hypnotic state that you're currently in and entering into your natural, unhypnotized state. And I believe that there is a lot of truth in that because we are conditioned. We are conditioned all across the board. I mean, humans, we are both complex and very simple all at the same time. But even, for example, the bell that they implemented in schools was to condition people to get ready to work in factories and to live by this bell of like, ding, now you work. Ding, you have a 10-minute break. Ding. We are very susceptible to conditioning because our brains have neuroplasticity. We're malleable. It's a beautiful thing. And so this idea that practicing something like hypnosis is exiting a trance state and arriving in like a more natural state of being, I find to be
it's beautiful.
So beautiful and super expansive. And like, I love that. I love that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that does make sense.
It's a bit of a trip to really like think about that.
Yeah. Most people think that they're in their natural state and then they go into some like trance. But it could be it sounds like you've experienced the opposite.
Well, and it happens even in like minor instances. For example, okay, let's take, for example, if you have, I don't know, you wake up and you're like, oh, today sucks. You know, I would think that we've all probably had a day or two that's somewhat like that. You wake up, you're like, oh my God, today friggin' sucks. And so then you go through the day and like you stub your toe. First thing, you're like, what the fuck? Oh my God, I knew today was gonna suck. And then you hit traffic or, you know, then like you drop your sandwich on the ground and like all these things happen. You're like, holy shit, today sucked so hard. And there's a reason why that is true because in a certain sense, you like created that experience for yourself. Because our minds have what's called the reticular activating system, RAS. And the function of RAS is to prove you right, always. So whatever you throw at the reticular activating system, it is going to like scan your whole world in order to find the examples of how that is true and right. So you also could have woken up, like let's say you've been in love with someone for months and months and months and months, and then you finally spend the night together and you wake up and you're on cloud 9 and you're like, oh my God, I'm in love and the world needs to know it. And you stub your toe and you're like, I don't even care, who needs a toe? And then you get in traffic and you're like, more time to spend thinking about my loved one. You drop your sandwich, you're like, who needs to eat with this love? You know what I mean? Like you can have that whole same experience, but because your mindset is different about it, then it's being validated through a different lens. And that's literally how we function. Like humans, we are both complex and somewhat simple machines all at the same time. So it's really fun and playful, I think, to like deepen the awareness of what's happening in the mind, of how we speak to ourselves, of how we hypnotize ourselves or how we dehypnotize ourselves, and how that supports the life path and the desires that we truly, truly want or not.
Wow, I loved that. That was great. The reticular, is that your your optic as well, or is that just?
I'm not exactly sure physically where the reticular activating system is located inside the mind, but you know what is interesting? I was listening to the Andrew Huberman podcast, and he mentioned that the eyes were a part of the brain. Like they were brain, and they're like external parts of the brain.
What I notice, I have heard him say that, and what I've noticed is when I'm in bed trying to go to sleep and my thoughts are going, I can feel my eyes going. So then I'm like, okay, what if I take a deep breath and try to just stare at this one shade of color through my eyelids. And then you don't really, you're just more present, and then you just fall asleep. So yeah, I mean, when you're seeing people dreaming too intensely, whatever stage that is, it's just like their eyes are all over the place, but you can see it moving in there through their eyelids. So very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like there's a loop I wanted to close, or so you're doing this entrepreneurial route as well as the corporate world. Do you mind me asking what you're doing in the corporate world, or do you not want to talk about that?
It's so funny. Like, I feel myself, if I can just acknowledge my feelings, I feel that it's so vulnerable for me to share that I still have my corporate job. A part of me feels ashamed about that, which is kind of wild.
Well, maybe because like of other people's judgments.
Yeah, there definitely is a fear of judgment there for sure, which has been a common thread through all of my ayahuasca journeys, and a lot of my awareness has been this thread of judgment. But I feel a bit ashamed that I'm scared to leave. That's the truth. I'm scared to leave the consistency and the security of the corporate job.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I'm not even so I'm not making any money on the podcast. So like, I'm not even yet. But even if I were, and I was making a consistent flow where I could live my life, it's scary because it's like, well, it's not a guaranteed fixed paycheck. Like, no matter what your performance with a corporate job, you are getting that fixed number. So in the back of your subconscious mind, at least for me, you just know that, and it is a feeling of safety. It's like, and that's not to say you fuck around during your corporate job, but it's like, you just know no matter what you're performing. Because like, you could work so hard for your corporate job, get that paycheck. You could work so hard for your entrepreneurial job, you don't get that paycheck. You know, and so that's a consequence of the entrepreneurial route. And so I mean, I totally understand. Like, I think that's super intelligent to be able or to have that fear. You know, in my opinion, at least.
Thank you for that. And I share that in hopes of normalizing if someone else is also having that experience.
I'm sure there are many people.
I know that to be true. But you know, at the end of the day, it is, quite frankly, all an illusion. It's all a fucking illusion. Because to my company, I am a number. I literally have a number that is associated with my profile in HR. It's not my name. It's not anything about me. I have a unique identifier, and it's a number, which is very dehumanizing, right? And at any time, they can let me go. So yes, like, there is consistency there, and yes, I do get that paycheck, and yes, like, there is security, and also like, there isn't, because I am so not in control of that situation. You know what I mean? It's so wild. And yet the flip side of the coin, like, you are in control, I say in quotations, of your entrepreneurial efforts. And so there almost is more control in that realm, even though you don't report to someone. So it kind of is all how we look at it. But we are told that the corporate job is secure. But I have gone through so many rounds of letting people go who didn't see it coming. And that's, you're not going to feel very in control in that situation. So
I
it's a lot to navigate.
I saw one of your posts that talks about, it's like, you are replaceable.
100%.
It's like, you are so easily replaceable. And a part of me just wants to be a part of something, which I do feel in a way I am. But yeah, for the corporate job that I work for, it's very easy. Like we actually, yeah, there's multiple people moving around in the company, right? And yeah, we thought about it the other day. I was like, we can onboard someone to do exactly what that person, like, so this person wasn't fired. They're just moving to a different department.
Right.
Which is great. They're doing something that they want to, they're evolving into a new position that feels right for them. And so,
amazing.
Yeah, but it's just like, okay, well, if we need another employee to fill his spot, we can train him, and just goes to show, like, very, very replaceable. Now, yeah, I think that the company I work for is pretty unique. It's a Bitcoin company, and you do need to have like an extensive amount of knowledge, and also like some people have this, how do you pronounce it? It's a Japanese ikigai. And there are many people that work for our company that have that going on for them, and their job with the company is like intertwined with that ikigai because they love what Bitcoin can do for the world. And so I think that there's a unique aspect to my company, but I can see many other corporate jobs that can just very easily replace you, so easily. Like if you do one thing that might upset someone at the top, and you didn't think it was something that would upset them, it's just like, well, we'll just get rid of you. And so I can see how that could be dehumanizing, for sure.
Yeah. It's been a whole journey. It's been a very big, long learning journey. And the company that I work for is one of the big 4 accounting firms. It's a very, very large company.
Oh, wow.
So, there is like a lot of, I'm like almost anonymous to a certain sense because there's tens of thousands of employees across the nation and like 170,000 across the world or something. So like, it's a pretty big company. But what was really interesting is when I was first hired, they're like, oh, we love you. We love your experiences. Like, we love you. And we want to bring you into the firm because we love you. And you're like, oh my God, they appreciate me. I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm accepted. And they're like, welcome to the firm. You're like, hell yeah. And like, here's our dress code. Here's all these templates to use. Here's your ID number. And here's your badge, like everyone else. Now go learn all the ways that we work and how we show up. And be more like that. Thanks for being unique. We hired you for that. And also, you can leave that to the wayside now. Here's our templates. Here's the dress code. And here's here's your badge. And this is how we'll identify you now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's such an interesting process. You're like, they hired me for me. And they did. And also it's like, but you better fit in.
Yeah. Yeah,
but that's just my experience.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you can totally flip your perspective on it. So yeah. I did see that you did some type of group call with a group of women, and it was like a corporate setting or corporate theme. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Yes.
I took notes. I should maybe use those.
You're so good, so prepared. Yes, I created a group coaching program that was called the Corporate Cleanse Program.
Yes. Could you maybe just describe like what's incorporated?
I see what you did there.
No pun intended.
Yeah. So I put together a 6-week program for women who work in corporate who knew that they needed clarity, but didn't know where to even begin to find clarity. So it's not a program to help a woman quit her job in corporate, because Lord knows we need women in corporate, perhaps now more than ever. But it was more so to help them come home to themselves. Per this perspective that we join a big company, they hire us because we are a unique individual, but then they want us to fit into their culture. And so we can shed parts of ourselves in order to pick up those pieces of the culture of that company. And as a result, we can end up losing ourselves. We kind of lose our uniqueness, and we can forget. Again, we're malleable, which is a beautiful thing. And sometimes we need to be reminded of who we truly are. And this is a program of coming back to feeling, to knowing, to understanding what's really true to you. and leaving whatever else behind that doesn't support you in that, should you decide to do so. It was a really beautiful experience, and it was very, very special for me. And I hold strong to a hypnosis coaching program. That's what's up. You got to go into the subconscious mind. We have to. It doesn't make sense to do change work and not incorporate the subconscious mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still unsure how. So if I were to join a hypnosis session, like how it would go down. When I started my personal improvement journey, whatever you want to call it, I started meditating, and that was like the first thing that really helped me become aware of the conscious thoughts that would flow. Give yourself time and space of mind to see them come up, which I believe like surfaces from your subconscious mind.
Sure.
So I'm not entirely, and so then I think I saw you had a scavenger, subconscious scavenger hunt. And so, yeah, I'm just curious, like if I were to join one of your sessions, whether it's group or like a solo session, how does it go down? And I'm not sure if you want to reveal everything because it's like part of your business, and you want people to be like,
no, there's no secrets here with me. And that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking that question.
Yeah.
And so I have a couple of different ways that I offer the experience of hypnosis. There's private one-on-one sessions, of course, and then I have group hypnosis programs. I have group hypnosis events and classes here in Austin on a weekly basis. And then I also have some recordings, and my subconscious scavenger hunt is something I offer on my Patreon, which is a way that we use oracle cards to engage with the subconscious mind to set up your reticular activating system to have a positive week, as positive as possible, because it gives the mind something to look for, hence the scavenger hunt. So the technique that I practice personally as a hypnotist is more so in the realm of progressive relaxation. And there's many people that argue that the subconscious mind is actually the body. It's actually the physical body. We think about it that it's like in some like chest inside the inner mind and like the center of the brain. And like, yes, and also there's a belief that the subconscious mind is the body. So we begin by bringing relaxation to the physical body, which is something like, go ahead and allow the eyes to close, relax the forehead, relax the tiny muscles next to the eyes, relax the shoulders, and progressively relaxing the body. Breathing in, relaxing the lungs, relaxing the belly, relaxing the hands, relaxing the thighs, relaxing even the kneecaps, relaxing the calves, relaxing the heels of the feet and each and every toe. And taking a nice deep letting go breath from this place. But just as an example, progressively relaxing the body, like that's what that looks and feels like.
Yeah.
And so if you've listened to some meditations or even done yoga nidra, you'll probably find some similarities there. And from that place, we use a lot of conscious and intentional language in order to communicate with the subconscious mind in a particular way. And so once that induction, quote, is over, then we then enter into the heart of the hypnosis session. And that is where the creativity can really flow, because we're working with the imagination. So literally, it's infinite possibilities. But that being said, there are specific techniques that we employ in the world of hypnosis. So a lot of inner child work. There can be parts therapy, which is a really empowering place to be, which we think of like, the manager part and this part in terms of like the internal family systems, but it's beyond that in terms of if I have like the part of me that can't meditate, for example, that could be a part that I call forward and we have a conversation. Like I literally call them forward and experience this part of me before me. And we have a whole conversation back and forth. What brought you here? What made you come into being? When was that? What's your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you work for? And ask all these engaging questions
Mm-hmm.
to then negotiate new terms on a new relationship and a new way of working together. And we can do things like future pacing, where things like Olympic athletes use this technique to visualize themselves going through this future state, skiing down the hill or whatever their practice is, and make it real, because our mind knows no difference between what's imagined and what's real. So this practice elicits the response in the physical body of it being real. So it's really great mental rehearsal. And a wide variety of other possibilities, but just to give you some like ideas of what's possible in this realm. And I guide you through that experience. And in a group setting, it's just me offering you these suggestions. In a private one-on-one session, I'm asking you questions and you're responding to me. Because in meditation, there's the idea that it's a lot of silence, right? Like you're kind of sitting in silence, you're sitting with yourself. It's like a solo activity. In hypnosis, I'm asking you questions and you're responding to me, because I can't possibly begin to imagine what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And so I would invite you to share with me like what you're experiencing. And you're like, oh, there's a bird on a branch and there's a sunlight coming through two beams and there's soft pebbles under my feet. How could I possibly have ever known that that's what you're experiencing? Mm-hmm. And so we work together in the core hypnosis of this portion. And then there's, quote, an emerging, which is how we end the session, which maybe would be me like counting you back up, or just inviting you to come back into your body, moving the body, taking intentional breaths and coming back into like your alpha beta state. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of an outline of what a session could entail and could look like and feel like. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. It sounds like such a super effective practice. I haven't been doing that. I honestly haven't been writing as much as I used to. And whenever I wrote, it would just be like talking about the day and whatnot. And, but this, so a previous podcast guest, her name is Michelle Catino. She does a multitude of things, but according to her website, I think she calls herself a vocal empowerment coach. So she does sound baths and sound healing, and she does other like spiritual practices. And so she messaged me because I asked her a question. I was like, I want to do some research on healing the feminine. And she asked me a couple of questions, and then the next day in the morning, I hope she's okay with me sharing this. I think she would be. She gave me 2 voice notes, and she was like, this has only happened one other time out of all the clients that I've ever had. And I'm not really a client. I'm not like, it was just like
You're just having a informal conversation.
Yeah. And she was like, I felt it so strongly in my dream. And I was like, okay, interesting. She told me to write a letter to the divine feminine or to a future romantic partner or to this female that was in my life at a very young age that caused a lot of trauma. Write a letter to her. So I did it to the divine feminine and to a future romantic partner. And then she told me, which I don't do often, once you write the letter, blast some music and just fucking dance and like let it release. Yeah. Right. And I did that. And like, going back in the beginning of our conversation, like the man in me was like, this is fucking weird. I don't want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And, but I did it and I felt great. Like I felt, and then the next day, I slept in too. I just felt really good. And I can just see that I need to do more of that with certain things to feel like maybe, releasing different things, right? Or if it's like I'm feeling like emotionally very in tune and healthy, if you want a goal, like if I want to be the top 50 podcasts in the world or something like that, and you envision that or whatever, that's I totally understand what you're saying, because it's like manifesting. Like you're manifesting something, which I feel like I've done really strongly. And I've had someone call that out too. Like I spoke to them about something and then it happened and they were like, you manifested it. And I never really thought about it that way. I wasn't like, oh, I manifest. I just like kept thinking about it every single day because I really wanted it. And then they were like, you fucking manifested that. Like you accomplished it. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I did. And yeah, it is very powerful to really like, because a lot of people think it's woo woo to be like, I can make this happen by just imagining it strongly and maybe consistently. So I think hypnosis, I don't know if maybe I'm not like consciously doing it, or maybe I'm like kind of in the back of my mind doing it, but I totally resonate with that practice, that routine.
Well, we're all hypnotists.
Yeah.
We hypnotize ourselves each
all
and every day.
All the time, yeah.
Each and every day. With every thought that we think is an invitation to see the world through that lens.
Yeah.
And I heard you say, what did you say? You thought about what you wanted. You thought about it so much, and you thought about it and you thought about it, and someone called out like, you manifested that. And you're like, oh, I did think about that a lot, which is true. And also, you didn't just think about it, you felt it. That's the difference. It's a felt experience. It's a somatic experience, which is why the Olympians use imagery and visualization. It's to feel it. If they're a skier, it's to feel the snow cascading under their skis. It's to feel the rush of wind. It's to hear the crowd. It's to have the full experience be a felt experience because then it's familiar. And then you know the energy of it. And so it's in your world. It's familiar. Yeah. So it's not the thoughts, it's the feelings. Yeah. Yeah. And that reminds me of Joe Dispenza, like a lot of his meditations. And he's a hypnotist, by the way. So is Tony Robbins. Really? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, they are practicing hypnosis. Yeah. The meditations are they're hypnosis. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I would agree with that for sure. Because I've done the blessings of the energy centers meditation. I did it like directly after my ayahuasca experience, and it was like so crazy what opened up. I was like, okay, I don't need like a psychedelic to feel this good, or I don't know. Hell yeah. But speaking of ayahuasca, I've had Hutch on and Ellie on the podcast. Me and Hutch talked about a lot of different things. We didn't talk about rhythmia, but Ellie brought it up. And I have one clip of her and she's just like so happy, but also like gets into tears because it was such a powerful experience for her. Yeah. And, I've been talking about it a lot, and, because it happened this year. I'm actually doing it again in October. Let's go. And it was just so profoundly helpful for me. And I've had a lot of conversations with people about ayahuasca and plant medicine, and something that I really, so one, just the first time I did this, it felt very organic and natural. It felt like it called to me. I wasn't really aggressively seeking it. It just kind of came through a friend of mine over time. And I was friends with this. So it was Jay, my buddy Jay, for like over a year and a half. And finally I was like, okay, this is it. This feels right. And the conversations I've had though, it's like that, ayahuasca is a teacher. And you should be, just to be wary and careful of like not being overly dependent on it as like a substance that will heal all of your problems. Right. But like I said, it was profound for me. And but I always like to hear everybody's experience because it's like it's kind of crazy. Like the gentleman that I was in ceremony with, they had a different experience. Like for me, I felt truly, I said this on like Instagram the other day, I was like,
I don't know where my spiritual path will be, like where it will commit to,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's an organized religion, like,
Mm.
I don't know if you want to say Buddhism is an organized religion, but it's, or Christianity or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do like know that there is something greater than us.
Mm.
And that was embodied through my ayahuasca ceremonies.
Mm.
Whereas like other men that I've talked to, it's like they didn't, nothing. It was like
Mm.
really helpful in different thought flows,
Mm.
but they weren't like blasted off into the ether or like,
Sure.
you know. So I think it's kind of fascinating how this substance, like me and you or those guys, could take the same batch, have a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious because it sounds like Ellie, it was like such a profound moment for her as well. And I think I remember you commenting on one of the clips saying like it was such a special time.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your perspective and yeah.
Thank you for that invitation. And you know, not to bring everything back to hypnosis, but I do have a tendency to do that. In order to be hypnotized, you have to want to be hypnotized, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only stipulation. And I think that speaks to a lot in life, that we only receive that which we are willing to receive. And I think even in the plant medicine space, there's a certain amount of willingness that we need to have in order to receive, or openness to receive. And I share that because to a certain extent, I was not fully committed to the experience. And so I did not receive some big, massive, life-shifting event during the nights of ayahuasca. In fact, I slept through the majority of the nights.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Sounds
Which
like.
they say like you're doing the inner work. They're like, we don't need you awake for this. Go ahead, take a nap. We got this, girl. We're going to do this. But for me, it did increase my sensitivity and my awareness to become aware of what I was becoming aware of. And so there was one morning at Rhythmia in Costa Rica where they had yoga classes in the morning after an ayahuasca ceremony. I'm going to my yoga class. And as I'm going, and you're kind of like sleep deprived at this point, you know, like you don't know what's up, what's down. And I'm going to yoga class and I'm watching this woman go into the Maloka for yoga. And I'm like, her greens don't match. Like she had a green top and a green bottom. I'm like, those don't match. Why did she do that? And I'm like mad about it. Like it personally offended me in some way. And then I'm just like, whatever. And I see this other woman go in and she has curly hair, much like me. And it was like huge, frizzy, just massive curls. My curly friends, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh my God, did she even look in the mirror before she left? And I'm going to yoga, okay? Which is supposed to be like love and light.
After
and I'm judging
ayahuasca.
the fuck out of everyone.
Yeah.
And I realize that I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm being so judgmental right now. And I was like, okay, we hit that layer. I'm like, I'm aware of the judgments. Okay, interesting. And then I was like, level deeper. Oh my God, that's how I talk to myself. And then I was like, holy shit. And then it went level deeper. Oh my God, I don't like myself. And that one hit pretty deep. Because I thought I liked myself. I was like, I'm cool. Like, I'm a pretty cool person, I think. I'm a nice person. I do nice things.
Yeah.
I've had my moments, but you know, for the most part. And I was like, oh, I don't like myself. What? And so this initiated my relationship with judgment and becoming aware. That was the first time that I sat with ayahuasca. The second time that I sat with ayahuasca was in the US, in Sedona. And I had this experience, long story short, of going with someone who was a friend, and they had a better friend who was there. So then I was like the not good friend anymore. I was the lesser friend of the three. And she made sure to make me aware of that. And judged me so hard for everything. Like I brought like a bouquet of of like eucalyptus and other plants for the altar space. And she was like, those aren't flowers. Like, what are you, stupid? And made me feel so dumb for my altar offering. I'm like, this is insane. But it made me feel really sad. And then I realized that I was being judged. And I realized that this time I was on the receiving end of judgment. So I could experience what that feels like. And I was like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And so it has continued over time. That has been my big learnings. Like, grandmother ayahuasca is here to help me understand the judgmental mind in my relationship with judgment, and has helped me to step out of that place more and more. Although I still have a judgmental mind, like I still am a human being, but I'm more aware of it now. And that has been a gift.
Yeah. Meditation can help you with that, but there's something about ayahuasca that can really fucking accelerate it.
It's an accelerator. I think that's probably a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
But I also believe that you do, to a certain extent, need to have some willingness or openness to receive it.
Yeah.
Because I also had a realization that I was practicing what I called partial commitment. And I was like, okay, I paid the money to go to this retreat. I showed up. I'm here. And I drank it. I drank a cup of ayahuasca, a little teacup. I'm like, so I'm good. I did it all.
Yeah.
But the shamans are like, we're going to call for a second and also maybe a third round. And if you hear the calling, you need to get up and have another cup. If you hear the calling, you have heard the calling and you take it. I heard the calling. And I was like, I don't need to do that. I already had one.
Yeah.
I did it. I don't need to do that. And so I was partially committing to the experience versus being like a full fuck yes, I'm going to do the whole thing. And then when I realized that, because then afterwards I'm hearing people have these like insane experiences, having surgery from aliens, getting a new heart, having this replaced, and like healing this relationship and forgiving this person. And I'm like, well, I had kind of a cosmic nap after I threw up in a bucket, but I definitely didn't have that. But of course, I'm not going to have the full experience if I'm not fully committed. And then I'm like, oh my God, where else am I partially committed? I'm partially committed to my corporate job. Therefore, I'm partially committed to my entrepreneurial work. I'm partially committed to dating. I'm partially committing to everything. Like, what am I fully bought in on? I don't know.
Wow.
So I still am having these learnings. Like this was a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that in the maloka, in the ceremony. Like, all of my realizations have happened after the fact.
Yeah. It's interesting how, like, you didn't have the alien doing heart surgery.
Yeah, that's real life.
But still, you had a very powerful experience, right?
I did.
Like I would say I had both. I did feel like an alien was scanning my body at one point. I mean, for 6 to 7 hours, I was like deeply in a psychedelic experience. So vision, like, and compared to like mushrooms, which I haven't done like a full on macro dose of mushrooms in a long time. But like with mushrooms, it's like whether your eyes are closed or open, it feels like you're just fucking in it.
Yeah.
With ayahuasca, it was a full blast when I closed my eyes. But then when I opened it, I could come back to like everything just looked like there's a shade of different colors, but for the most part, it was like clear.
How interesting.
And, yeah. But I learned a lot in the midst of it. And then, the lessons continued to unfold after. And so partially committed. That is so, oh man.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, even myself. I mean, I think everybody, because there's just so many things you can do nowadays. And this is why I am trying to get better with it. I would like to.
You are getting better.
And I have, I have. But it's like it pulls you apart. I don't think people realize that. They're like, well, I feel like really healthy in my life, but it's like you have a very limited time on this planet, and this thing, in my opinion, depending on how you use it, because some people can use it very effectively, can really just pull you apart. I think from experience, like you're just. yeah, if you have one big desire, whether it's like romantic, but then you're on this all the time.
Your phone, yeah.
And then you just look at different things and you're like, oh, that girl looked really good. And that guy looks like he's stronger than me. And then, so then you're just like judging yourself in different ways. And then like you're not fully present with that. Like there's just, it's just so much fucking stuff that can happen. So yeah. Man.
Yeah. When you're partially committed, you're committed to nothing.
Right.
At all.
Right. And I've heard, or I read in a book of mine, it was something that Naval Ravikant said. He was saying you should pick one big desire and just focus on that until you've attained it. So if it's like, I want a job that I am so in love with, but I also want to fall in love with a human being, and I want to climb Mount Everest. And you try to do all those three things at the same time, it's probably not going to be effective.
That's a lot.
So, I do think that, like for me, I actually signed up for the Tantra speed dating after you told me about it. So I'm going to be doing that. But
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm grateful for being able to pick your brain about it. And granted, it's like I should have just fucking do it too, but I didn't know what to expect.
Well, it's this is why podcasts exist, because we want to hear stories.
Yeah.
We want to relate to people. We want to know what it's going to look like or feel like or sound like. And so
you do want a little bit of a heads up.
Yeah,
and so it sounded great. And but yeah, part of me has been like, you know what? I don't know if you should dive into a romantic pursuit, because I'm trying to like do this podcast. That's a big desire that I have.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, is it also just like subconscious things that you're still like your inner child is still not wanting to get through as well?
Sure.
So it's just like so many things that I actually want to talk to you about it. But real quick, can I do a bathroom break?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I got to go so bad.
Okay.
All right. And we're back. We're back. To continue off of the partials, we were talking about partially committing,
partial
ayahuasca, choosing one big desire to focus on and really just like trying to attain that. And yeah, that's been something that I've been like, oh, okay, so this is something that I wanted to talk to you about. Cause like when I got back from the ayahuasca retreat, so in the midst of it, the days after, and then like 2 to 3 months, and still to this day, I feel the best I've ever felt in my life. Like my higher self, feeling off, like comfortable in my nervous system, healthy, balanced. But there are still like things that I'm working on. And when I got back from the ayahuasca retreat, everything felt so clear. Like the illusions and the thoughts that you have just kind of like dropped by the wayside. And it was just like an effortless clarity, and it was so interesting. Like I do feel like, as woo-woo as it sounds, I was brought closer to whatever you want to call it, source, the divine, God. And because of that, I was revealed I was led through such a compassionate, like, observer view of so many different perspectives, both nights of the ceremony. And so, yeah, recently, like, I've been questioning what I felt so confident in. And I was like, well, maybe, and this could go back to like, well, here's the patterns of our minds, kind of just coming back and our inner talk, just not liking ourselves, right? And so I'm so glad that you brought that up. And it's like, it's so funny how like when I choose my guests, like it is an intuitive choosing, and it's so crazy how it tends to really work.
Of course.
Because the things that I talk about are so impactful for the moment in which so, but anyways, you were speaking on your Instagram about, trying to remember exactly what it was, but you were talking about, it's essentially trying to recognize, like, so stepping into your higher self, and so you have to be true to your own nature, but like, what is true to our own nature? Because we create illusions. So what is reality? Like, and that's where I'm at right. Like, that's where I'm at right now. I have been getting to a point where I'm like trying to be as honest with myself as possible, but I'm also like, am I being way too hard on myself, which I tend to do.
Yeah.
I have been very hard on myself at times throughout my life. And it's just like so confusing. Like, it's been this constant questioning. Like, my ego's like, all right, we're going to take you through we're going to fuck you up today or so. I don't know. So yeah, essentially like it's this balance of, okay, let's try to take a peek into your inner child and your inner child's voice and hear it out and try to heal that. But then also like balance. So I only want to do one desire. So I don't want to focus on romantic. And then it's like, well, am I just avoiding it? And then like, what is true? Like, what is my true higher self? Like, what is it? And I guess it's like, you know, and then also with feelings too. Like, yeah. So
yes, here we are trying to think our way out of a feeling problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with ayahuasca, it was like, it was just the like clarity. It was like, you feel clear, and it's, yeah. So I guess that you just answered it right there. It's like, you're just rationally trying to, think your way through certain things. But yeah, I tend to like, right now, like at this phase of my life, I'm just kind of going back and forth, and
that's okay. First of all, like, let's just establish that our minds are designed to think thoughts. So when you think thoughts, you're perfect. That's wonderful. And also, maybe we don't need to have some of the thoughts that we're having. You know, I get this question a lot of like, I don't know, like, the voice that I'm hearing, like, is it my ego or is it my higher self? And like, how do I know the difference? And what even is that? And like, who's talking to me when it's like, you should climb Mount Everest, you know? And you're like, should I? Is that my ego because I want to prove how strong I am? Or it's my higher self because it's like a mission from source? It's like, how do I know the difference? And these are great questions. And I would argue that there's probably a different feeling to one or the other. But one thing I can say for sure is that when your higher self, and whatever that means for you, this bigger source energy is speaking to you or through you, it's always a kind voice. Always. That much I know to be true. And I met that in hypnotic states, talking to myself kindly, truly, truly kindly for the first time, with so much forgiveness and so much self-compassion. I was like, oh, that hits different versus you should do this, or you'll never be as good as them, or, you know, all of these like heavier. It feels heavier. And that's because they are.
Yeah. That tends to happen when so certain instances of meditating where your desires are like all over the place, your mind's all over the place. But then when you clear your mind, what I find is your desires like come in gracefully, and it's like your soul's desire is speaking to. And I know exactly what you're saying. Like, you just kind of know within you through the feeling that you have. So yeah, that's a nice reminder, because lately I've just been all over the place, not too chaotically, but just been like a little challenging. And I guess a part of me was like, well, I felt like so clear and confident after my ayahuasca retreat. It's like, why is this all like kind of coming back and confusing? So thank you for that. I think, is that everything that, so with the ayahuasca retreat that you had, were there any other lessons, or do you think that was like the main ones? Like, so the partially commitment, the huge amount of like the layers of awareness, and judgments. Was there anything else?
That was really like the biggest pieces. that were there. And then I also found myself comparing my experience to other people and again being like, well, why didn't I have surgery from an alien? You know, am I not worthy of alien surgery? Which again is like just another lens of judgment. So those were 2 big talk tracks. I've over time sat with ayahuasca about 10 times now.
Okay.
And I share that because not from a brag, but because it took me 10 times to arrive at a point where I actually let myself receive more of the experience. On that last night, I was like, this is it. You came here for this. So give it to yourself. 10 times it took to have that.
Yeah.
And that night, my body became one with the music. I felt the music. I was the music. And it was like I remember being like, holy shit, it's happening. I was like, oh my God. And then I felt myself, I was seeing like textures that were familiar, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm seeing like antenna, like of like an insect, like insect antenna, and like the tiny texture of like wings and like the transparency of like dragonfly wings. I'm like, I'm seeing an insect. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm a cockroach. I'm a cockroach. And I was like, of course I'm a cockroach is literally what I'm saying to myself in this experience. So I had this like peak of like melding, like I let myself have the experience. I said, go for it, May. It's now or never. And then I mold with the music and some visuals come in and I realize I'm a cockroach. And I was like, really? And I was like, of course I'm a cockroach. And to a certain extent, there's probably a lot to digest about that.
I was going to say, what?
There's probably a lot to digest about that.
How did it get to that?
I think that like part of me thinks that cockroaches are a little messenger for me. I did not ask for that, but that's what we are receiving. Where like I had an instance where I found an apartment in New York City and I was super excited about it. And like it met like all these like stipulations that I was hoping for. And it was this like breath of new life for this like new chapter in New York City. This was before I moved to Austin. And I got the key and my friend who I was moving in with, she was like, yeah. She was partially committed. She was like, yeah, this is cool. And then she also was like, but you know, like, maybe not. And I was like, we either are or we aren't. And she's like, okay, fine, we are. And we moved above a pizza shop. And the day that I got the key, lit him with the realtor, she puts the key into the keyhole, turns it open, cockroach runs across the doorway right before I go in. A big one. I was like, okay. And it turned out that whole apartment was infested.
Oh.
Yeah. Should have known. It was above a pizza shop. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
So that was just an interesting moment of pause. I also had another instance on a date here in Austin at OPA, way back, like maybe in 2021. And it was our first date and we sat down and he was like, I love this place. It's so wonderful and I love it. And I was like, I've never been here before. I didn't really know. I was still new to Austin. And we sit down and a cockroach also like under the table, whatever. It was like a whole thing, like got up, moved the table, like I'm squealing. I'm like, ah! It didn't work out with this guy. But I feel like cockroaches like cross my path in these moments that are like, this isn't it.
Really?
This isn't it.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's right now.
Yeah, if it came up in your ayahuasca.
There's something there.
Yeah.
I was like, of course I'm a cockroach. Friggin' A.
Yeah, it's something that I ponder on. That comes up after you said like you're partially committed and you finally made it after the 10th time. You know, you this was it, right? And for me, it was like number one, first time,
hell yeah,
full blast.
Good for you.
And I try to reflect on that, and I didn't think too hard about it. Like I just was like, you know, I heard about ayahuasca from my buddy, and I've been around Jay for about a year and a half, and like saw people do it, and then for a year and a half, I was like going to the gym, doing all these different things to like make myself, like to mold my character, to sculpt my existence to be better,
Mm.
to healthier, whatever you want
Mm-hmm.
to, describe it as. But, and then towards the end of the year of 2022, I was like, I just can't get past. I don't know what it is. And I was like, I'm doing it. And so I signed up, and there was no ruminating about it. There was no whole, I was a very open field. When I went on the trip, like I wasn't really nervous. I was more nervous for the Te Mescal, which is a 3-hour sweat lodge.
Sure.
Than I was the ayahuasca. So, but it's very fascinating to me. Like, I think I have a theory that if you psychologically are just very resistant to something like ayahuasca, or so not something, but ayahuasca, you're not going to have that full embodiment, that full experience.
For sure.
So, yeah, it's so, and like the constant thing that I keep hearing is like, oh, the medicine is more intelligent than you can even realize. I'm like, what do you mean more intelligent? It's not conscious, is it? It's a fucking plant. It's 2 plants. Wow. And then you brew it, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know. Everything that I've ever known is just obliterated. Your ego gets obliterated. Like so it's like, it's just wild to me. Yeah. It's like real life magic, in my opinion.
I think at the end of the day, to welcome in the idea that magic is possible is so incredibly expansive.
Yeah. It's so amazing. Yeah.
Like, no matter what the experience, to even have a fraction of the belief that it's possible for magic to be possible is so expansive.
Yeah. And what I experienced afterwards, and it would happen maybe a few times prior to ayahuasca, these synchronicities. And that's top of mind right now. It's been happening a lot. And there's a book that Carl Jung talks about. It's called Synchronicities.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
Good title.
And synchronicities to me are like real life magic, because there's no there's no scientific experiment that's been able to prove what the fuck is going on. Like just this extremely random coincidence of events that happen. It's just beyond our conception and ability to formulate it and test it in a scientific experiment, because that's what he was trying to do. He couldn't do it. But what I noticed is that they would come up more. They came up so much after ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And the relationship that I find, because this happened before I was doing ayahuasca, is your level of awareness as well. And I think these synchronicities they're probably there all the time, and sometimes people just aren't totally aware of it. So
that's exactly right.
That's what I believe. That's what I'm finding to be true for myself.
Yeah.
So
that goes back to needing to have the willingness, needing to have the openness in order to have these experiences, in order to be hypnotized, in order to experience the depths of ayahuasca, in order to do literally whatever. There needs to be a core foundation of willingness and a certain degree of openness.
Yeah. Yeah. And just what I was taught was you surrender to whatever like happens, because it can be pretty intense.
Oh yeah.
So at a certain point, you're like, I can't control everything that I'm experiencing right now. So you just like focus on the breath, and that
element surrender of control is a big talk track in the human experience, and it prevents a lot of people from fully committing.
There's a book that so I know you do a conscious, what's it called? Book club?
Consciousness Seekers Book Club.
Consciousness Seekers Book Club. And there's a book that I've seen you bring up a few times. It's called The Untethered Soul. I've never read it. I do read a lot, but
I do read, I swear.
I do. I promise. Why did this book resonate with you?
I had more people tell me to read that book than almost anything else. And Michael Singer has written a couple of books, and I've only read The Untethered Soul, but he has a very poetic way of writing and it's very storytelling, which I appreciate. So it was like a gentle read, but it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was a lot of people within like the conscious and spiritual community that was like, oh my God, you have to read that book. And I was like, okay, well, geez.
It keeps
All
happening.
right. Yeah, seriously. Everyone was like I had dozens of people who were like, you have to read that book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, all right. I surrender. I'll
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a beautiful read.
And so what particularly stood out to you in the book that like helped you?
That's a good question. I'd have to like really go back because I think we read The Untethered Soul last fall. So it's been a little bit
Yeah.
since it's been in my like direct awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember just feeling like he had a very easy way of writing that felt like it could also be my story.
Mm.
And so it was very like, I'm in it. Like we're in this together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's some books you just read and you're like, wow, it's a page turner. You just keep going and keep going. And even though, yeah, some writers have a skill with writing simply, but it's so impactful with using simple, it's just like the orchestration of the writing is just simple, but it's like hard hitting. And so, yeah, I can make sense of that. Yeah.
Well, you know, in the experiences that I've had in this great awakening of which I'm in, you're in, we're in, whether it was a hypnosis session or a plant medicine ceremony or breath work or just a very poignant conversation, the most impactful things are always the most simple. Always the most simple. It's never complicated. It's typically like, oh, I don't like myself. Or, oh, my highest self is always a kind voice. Like it's always like very simple statements that are the statements of truth. And so we can do our very best with all the intelligence that we have to think our way out of things. But that tends to make things more complicated.
Yeah.
And so just to bring this conversation back to a full circle, like what if we allowed it to be simple? What if we allowed ourselves to feel? And what if that's what it was all about?
Yeah. I find myself in stages of life where you kind of have to bring that back, remember that, because I'll have a lot of energy, right? Like maybe a certain phase in the year, and I'm just like grinding and speaking to different people about different topics and reading different books and then listening to all the podcasts and consuming. And that's not always good. Like people, or at least I have the idea that by reading and following your natural curiosity is a great compass and a great practice. But if you just do it too heavily, you don't absorb it and you don't kind of like allow the release of those and integration of those thoughts and what you've interpreted, then you start to bring the experience of life to a more complex one. And you're just not like processing things as optimally as you can. Right. I mean, that's just me. That's just what I'm experiencing. You just keep going and that's what I did before, like my awakening or my just kind of like just door hitting the face moment was like, you have been just consuming for 24 years. For 24 years. And you have not, you're not taking care of yourself. And so, so yeah, I appreciate that message because it still happens. You know, like I'm surrounded by amazing people. I am always pushed to be like my better self and there's just such an amazing like, plethora of resources. But it's funny, like the spiritual community, the health and fitness community, tech community, you think like, wow, I can't, like I have to take advantage of this because I'm in this community, but then it's like, you also don't have to, force anything and like, oh, So some people think like, because Huberman told me I have to do,
yeah,
a sauna every
sauna,
day.
ice bath,
I'm gonna do it every day. It's like, it might not necessarily like be good for you the way that you're doing it. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, life is very hypnotic. And what that means is that everything is a suggestion. Everything is a suggestion. And you're the boss. And as much as you possibly can be, you're the one who's in control. So you get to opt in or opt out of the suggestions that are offered to you at any time. And that's pretty empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Here's my rational mind again. What if you take that, what you just said, like you have the ability to take it or leave it, that suggestion. But if you keep leaving and dismissing it, but it keeps coming back up, does that mean that you're trying to suppress something?
I mean, I suppose it depends on what it is. I think it's more so of like, I don't know. And that's when your feeling body comes into the picture of like, what do I intuitively feel is right for me? Because I could offer you the suggestion of like, oh, you need hypnosis. Hypnosis is the #1 healing tool in the country. And like, it's the thing for everyone. Everyone needs hypnosis. And you're just like, no, thanks. Not for me. And I could call you up tomorrow. Oh my God. But let me just reiterate here. Hypnosis is like the #1 thing. It's the best thing. And you're like, I'm genuinely good. Thanks. And it's like in that example, like I'm harping on you, but you're deep in your body being like, it's not for me. And I feel confident in that. But if it's something like you have a tumor and should really see a medical professional about that, and someone's harping on you for that, like, and you're saying no because you have a fear of doctors, that's like a totally different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So of course it depends on the context and all of that. But again, like it's an invitation to feel into your feeling body and what's right for you. Because everything is truly a suggestion.
I love that. Well,
did we do it?
I think we did it. It's our boy Hutch's 30th birthday.
Happy birthday, Hutch.
Happy birthday, bro. You're old, man.
Welcome.
And we're joining some festivities. So
it's time to party.
Yeah, it's time to party. So one thing, what if you had one message that you could fit on a billboard?
Ooh.
For a very large portion of the world, humanity to see, what would that be?
It's okay to feel your feelings.
Yeah, that's it flows so well with what we were just talking about. And then where can people find you on the internet?
On the internet, I have my own website, which is maydeevy.com. On Instagram, I'm maydeevy.atx. And I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/beliefsystem, which is a pretty badass URL.
Yeah.
And also, if you're in Austin, you can find me at Third Eye Meditation Lounge on Wednesday nights, leading a class called Hypnosis for Your Highest Self. And I also lead some sound baths, some other experiences across town.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even get into the sound bath.
Oh,
shit. That was what I was missing. I knew something was fucking missing. Okay. Well, the next time you come on, we can talk about it.
But good.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Shane.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so fun.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.